Greetings. Just wanted to, this might turn out to be more than one video, but we'll do them in short little bits. Wanted to just follow up on the very exciting topic of the foreign currency translations and foreign currency consolidation statements of chapters 7 and 8 of our textbook. This is the slide that we stopped upon and said, oh, here it is. This is the famous slide comparing the two methods of I'll use the word loosely, translating financial information from one currency to another. The reason I use the word translation loosely is because, at least talking to practitioners and studying this on my own, regardless of how the textbooks talk about it, what I understand to be in practice is that there is two types of foreign currency, shall we say, translations. But again, we're using that word loosely for the moment. There is what we call a remeasurement, and this is somewhat of a review, and then I'll go into the reason for my bringing this to your attention today. Remeasurement, and I'll abbreviate that. And then there's a translation. They refer to different aspects of the foreign currency market of financial statement presentations. So we'll go over that real quickly, which is that the concept of remeasurement, that is when you're going from local currency to your functional currency. And we talked about a couple ways that can happen yesterday. One is the local currency is in a country with high hyperinflation. We don't want to record transactions that are meaningless in those denominations. So we translate our books into a functional currency, and that's specifically called a remeasurement. So the local refers to the books, how the books are kept. Functional refers to, and you can take a look at the textbook, the definitions are somewhat tough to get your arms around, but the concept of functional is what matters to the company, what denomination really matters to the company. How do they, in other words, if they quickly are moving the local currency into a different currency because that's the currency that are really concerned about, then that's your functional currency. And that's a very lazy man's definition. I certainly encourage you to look at the textbook a little bit more to get your arms around the concept of what's functional. It's a tough call oftentimes to make the distinction between local and functional. But in a loose manner of speaking, it's the currency that matters to the company is my way of looking at it. This part is the remeasurement. The translation is something different. The translation is when you're moving from functional to reporting. And reporting would be based on the country that you're submitting your financial statements to shareholders and regulatory authorities, things like that. The temporal method is really your remeasurement, and the current rate is really your translation. The difference between the two we spoke about yesterday is that for the most part the temporal is historical. We discussed the reasons why, and for the most part your translation to the reporting currency is mostly in current. So you're going to see the words there. That's the difference between the two. When you get down to the income statement, there is the actual day-to-day activities, the average. And when it comes to the items, we can specifically point back to where they occurred. We use the exchange rate at the time they occurred, the historical idea on temporal, continuing to use the average rate on the current rate, hence current rate. One thing I wanted to point out, and that's the reason for coming back to you here, is that when it comes to monetary assets and liabilities, items which are pecuniary, meaning monetary, even under the temporal method, which we are going to emphasize means historical, current rate becomes the norm, because, and you can sort of think of cash as cash, but it goes more than cash. It becomes actual monetary instruments, monetary assets, and the same with items that are going to be affected by monetary assets. They get recorded in current rates as opposed to historical rates. And that's what I want to point out. It's an interesting and important distinction from looking at the temporal method as just being purely historical in nature. Okay, that's one of the things that I felt needed some additional addendum to. If I have some more, I'll send you a different video. Thanks.